Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United transfer news as we talk exits. Garnacho leaving, Onana probably as well. Lots, oh, get that off! Get that off the screen. It's not meant to be on there. It's not meant to be on there. Get it off, get it off, get it off, get it off, get it off. That's the colder meter. Oh, I've turned it all off. Oh, God. This is why it shouldn't be me. Yeah, we will have the return. I've ruined the best bit. Matt's going to sack me now. Matt, the editor's going to sack me. Yeah, we will have the cold meter as well. Spoiler alert, Rashford, Sancho, Rasmus. We'll be talking about all of those lot as well. There's also an interesting drop from Rob Dawson about the tour. Marcus Rashford might be staying for another year, so we'll get into all of that. That's a bit coming out in the last few minutes, actually, from Rob Dawson, who writes for the ESPN. And also, actually, on incomings, we've actually got a bit of exclusive news from Ben Jacobs to bring you in as well. Shout out, he was doing a Twitter space with, I forget the second name of the person. I feel really bad. Isaiah is the first name. Really, really interesting Twitter space. And he spoke about Yarez and what's happening with Yarez, and basically very, very good. So we'll talk about that as well. And we'll show you the cold meter, and it's Saturday night. And I need to make an apology as well. Which you don't have to stay for the apology. Stay for the Yarez update. Stay for the cold meters. Don't stay for the apology. No one needs to hear that. Anyway, before we get into all of that, we are sponsored by Boohoo Man. I've got my Boohoo Man jumper on. We love Boohoo Man on the United Stand. And today's show is sported and sponsored by Boohoo Man. You can get all your clothing wear like this. I love this jumper. Got loads of stuff. T-shirts, jumpers, coats, underwear, gym wear, five-a-side wear, the lots, and you can get 10% off with the code Goldbridge on top of site-wide discounted items. So if something's 50% off, you can use Goldbridge and get the 10% on top of that as well. So if you fancy getting something stylish to update your wardrobe, click the link, delivered to your door. Loads of great offers and 10% on top of everything else with the code Goldbridge. Check the link in the description or scan the QR code. And because it's Boohoo Man, before we get into all the news, they've got a bit of trivia for you. Now, I don't know who this is. Sometimes I do. I was born on September the 30th, 1977. That means they're 47. I started my professional career at Hull in 95, and over my career I have played in England, Scotland, Denmark, Greece and Northern Ireland. I joined Man United in 2001 and won the Premier League in the 2002-03 season. Whilst at United, I also won FA Cup and Community Shield and made 49 appearances between 2001 and 2005. In 2005, I mishandled a shot that crossed the line, but it wasn't seen by officials. This helped push for the, I don't know who it is, for the line technology. I'm currently working as a goalkeeper coach at MUFC in Saudi Arabia. If it had said he was born in Northern Ireland, I would have said Roy Carroll, because that's who it is. And I've got it. Thank you very much. I like to play along. A big thank you to Boohoo Man for supporting today's show. Don't forget, you can get your extra 10% discount when you use the code Goldbridge. Link is in the description for that. Points to me. Points to me. Okay, before we talk about the outgoings, let's talk about the latest, because we all prefer incomings, don't we? Not in that way. What's the opposite of incoming in that way? Yeah, I'm thinking about receiving and giving. Don't worry about that. I'm getting my head's messed up there. Well, let's talk about incomings. So this is what Ben Jacobs has said this evening about Yarez. So this is a big update. So here we go. And fair play if you're watching the show and part of this amazing community, because we haven't even put it in the title. We've not put it on the thumbnail. And that's not laziness, because we couldn't be asked to change. Mentioning no names. That's because this community is a community you need to be part of all the time, because you never know what you're going to get. And you're going to get this exclusive here about Yarez. So basically what Ben Jacobs is saying is that Man United are in no rush to sign a striker. It's in their interest to bide their time. Obviously, Chelsea wanted the lap for the Club World Cup. Arsenal want a striker because it's their priority position. United have Cunha, they have Mbeumo, and they want to take their time across the transfer window and spread things out because they need to sell to buy. Also, it's a new financial year in July. So for United, they're not in any rush to get a striker in. And Ben Jacobs said more likely end of month, early July for the striker situation. And certainly that would work quite well with Yarez, who himself at the moment is the person with the power. The deal with Sporting is really interesting. This is all from Ben Jacobs, by the way. The deal with Sporting is really easy because they have a gentleman's agreement of £62 million. So the power is with the player, and the player is basically open to options at the moment and assessing those options. The player will basically set the agenda. that sort of suits Man United because they're not in a rush themselves. Obviously, Arsenal are still a threat for that. Ben Jacobs said keep an eye on PSG when it comes to Yarez because they will move on Mawani, they will move on Asensio, and they will be looking for a striker. They tried to get Osman last year. They may try and get Osman again. But if Osman goes to Al-Hilal or Galatasaray, then they may well go for Yarez, which would be horrible. Horrible. Because it makes total sense, doesn't it? We're there thinking about Arsenal. And Ben Jacobs has probably just knocked a very good suggestion out of the park. We can't compete with PSG. Qatar, I mean, they ain't going to do us any fucking favours, are they? We can't compete with PSG. Qatar are more powerful than Sir Jim. They've just won the Champions League. They want a striker. They took João Neves when we wanted João Neves and we took Agate. So if they do want a striker, they don't like Ramos, do they? So, you know, honestly, it deflated me a little bit. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but, you know, that I'm like Sebastian. I'm not necessarily. I think we think Arsenal. And Antoine says my heart just broke in a million pieces. Well, I'm only sharing the news, and you know, hopefully that won't happen. I think we thought with Arsenal out the way, it gives us a clear path. But hopefully he wants to play in the Premier League. Hopefully, and Ben Jacobs did say this. He did say it could be a scenario like Mbeumo, where the player chooses the team, and then the team negotiates with Sporting. So hopefully that will happen again. But he might not suit the Enrique system. I think that's a very good point by Cameron. He might not suit the Enrique system. They don't really play with a striker. So he might not suit their system. But look, all it does, I think, is just show how difficult the deal is and how it's probably not going to happen anytime soon. But that's just a bit of breaking news. That was coming in from Ben Jacobs. Effectively, the striker situation for Man United is probably going to be more towards the end of the month, and Yarez could well still be interested in the Champions League with PSG or another club. And as Jack says, they're the best team in the world at the moment, so why would he not go there? Give us the evening news, Mark. Happy 6 months all, says Chris, who's been a member for 6 months. Garnacho and Onana swap would be amazing, says Casper. Mark would likely to apologise to absolutely no one. McGregor voice, says Nick. I love the show, Mark. Great respect for you. Big love from Northern Ireland, says Phil. Ben O'Hare, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much. Well, cheers to everybody. It's a Saturday night. Didn't always used to do Saturday night live shows, so used to do that bloody talk shit radio show, didn't I? So cheers to the Saturday Night Live, and it's good to be live with you. We've got a lot to get into. Let's. Can I get a drum roll? We had the Hotometer this afternoon. We've now got. It's not. To be fair, the Hotometer's always been a goat of the United stand. The Coldometer came a little bit later, a bit of a sequel, but it's a good sequel. It's Empire Strikes Back, and it's cold. Cole Palmer's not on here. He's not on the Coldometer unless he wants to leave Man United. But this is the list of players that we think are most likely to leave Manchester United at the moment. Now, the interesting thing, the top two, we've had two big stories come out about these two players today. First of all, Rob Dawson has said that there's a tentative interest from West Ham for Sancho, but he would smash their wage structure. Meanwhile, Rashford spending another season on loan has not been ruled out by Man United. Now, that is catastrophic. I mean, that's just bloody ridiculous, isn't it? We'll come back to that though, because the one that started. Look, I had a few people messaging me about this today, and I will be honest. This is not what I'm apologising for, by the way. So this afternoon at about 3 o'clock, Fabrizio Romano said that Garnacho will definitely leave Manchester United. It's been agreed both on the player and the club side, and a lot of people were like, "Why aren't you going live with that?" And I'm like, because I trust this community. I don't trust the shits who try and bring it down, but I trust this community, and I trust them to remember that we said this on the morning after the final. So I don't need to go live. I respect Fabrizio Romano, he's a bloody legend of the game, but I don't need to go live to confirm something that we confirmed the day after the final. I 100% said on the 10 a.m. show after the final that Garnacho was leaving. And I don't think people understand the severity of that statement if it had gone wrong. 100% leaving Manchester United the morning after the final. Now, a lot of people could have predicted he was going to go. A lot of people could have guessed he was going to go. But 100%, there'll be haters out there that clipped that, hoping he wasn't going to go so they could try and bury us. 100% leaving Manchester United the morning after the Europa League final. That's why I didn't go live, because we've already told you that. Now, obviously, Fabrizio is way more credible than the United stand. I understand that completely. And Daniel says, you guessed. And that's fine, Daniel. If you want to think that, whatever you're doing tonight, I hope you're having a great Saturday night, wherever you are. And if you want to justify whatever bitterness you have towards this community and me, that I guessed it, that's absolutely fine. But I've been doing it for 10 years, mate. And trust me, you don't guess. Because if you get it wrong, you get buried. And I didn't guess. I was told it from, and not even from the source normally. 100%. And that's why we didn't go live this afternoon, because I knew we could just talk about it at 8 o'clock and bring it into the colder meter. He was gone the minute he did that interview. In his head, he was gone. And the reason he did the interview was to make sure he was gone. It was 100% his decision to do that. And it was 100% done in the knowledge that that would end his career at Manchester United. So realistically, I don't really have anything to say about Garnacho leaving Man United because it's obvious. I think the interesting thing that Fabrizio said is that he could stay in the Premier League. Leverkusen are interested. Premier League clubs are interested. I saw it. I can't remember if somebody can tell me, actually. I'm sure somebody said to me about Aston Villa. I can't remember if anyone in the chat knows who said it, but somebody's mentioned Aston Villa and Garnacho. What are your thoughts on Garnacho going to Aston Villa or any other Premier League club? I was told when I was in New York, Garnacho will go to Napoli, and I'm going to stick to that. But I'm not really comfortable with this happening in the Premier League, if I'm being completely honest. I think with Rashford going to Villa on loan, it's a loan deal. Ben Jacobs has said it. Ben Jacobs said it. Okay, I've just been sent this by Matt, our editor. Basically, Garnacho and Villa is one to watch. Man United still value him at £60 million. We will not get £60 million for Garnacho. I'd be more comfortable if he went to Napoli. I can deal with that, and I think it would be good for him to go to Napoli and play with Conte. I don't really like the idea of him being in the Premier League because I think it's likely to bite us in the arse anyway. And if it's going to bite us in the arse, I don't really want it to bite us in the arse in the Premier League because you see it all the time. But what I will say is, if you decide you want to sell a player, you then can't really try and say, you're not going there. So, but I'm with Greg, I'd rather see him go to Napoli, which is where I think he is going, and it's where I was told he is going to go. Leverkusen, I think, would be a stupid deal for him. I think he's better than Leverkusen. Just to go and play with Ten Hag, I wouldn't do that. But I think Napoli would be right. But Premier League, I hope not. I hope not. Yeah. So look, that's the Garnacho story. Talking about Marcus Rashford, he's next on the list. So Garnacho's 100% gone. He's 10 out of 10. He's colder than the Titanic's arse, basically. He is cold. He is gone. You know, his Man United career is dead. So it's 10 out of 10, 100% going. That's Garnacho gone. He's cold. Rashford, 9 out of 10, 90% chance he's going. But it probably should have a star next to it because Rashford will not be part of Man United's team next season. Absolutely not. Nailed on. The only reason he's not a 10, though, is because of where he wants to go. He wants to go. Paulie says it's too soon to be making jokes about the Titanic. Yeah, apologies for that. You know, we've probably all got family members and everything who were on it. Yeah, and it's so recent. Yeah. Only over 100 years ago. So, yeah. But let's go back to Rashford. It's interesting what Rob Dawson's saying about Man United not ruling out the prospect of a loan deal. I think that's Man United trying to... I actually think it's quite a clever move by Man United. And I know people will get angry about it, but think about it for a moment. I think it's quite clever from United because what we've seen is Villa don't want Rashford and Rashford doesn't want Villa. He's closed the door on that. They've closed the door on that. There's no other Premier League club that wants Rashford. The only place Rashford wants to go is Barcelona, and therefore United are in a difficult position because Barcelona know Rashford wants to go there, so they can really drive the price down. So Man United saying that they're not opposed to him going on loan for another year is actually quite a clever thing to do, because it says that, look, we're not taking stupid money from Barcelona. So don't think we're that desperate that we're going to take stupid money. If you think you're going to Barcelona at some stupid price, well, you know what? You might find yourself in a similar position to January, where you were waiting for Barcelona all month, it didn't happen, and then you had to do a deal with Villa at the end. You might end up doing that again. Now, just to explain this, Rashford wants to go to Barcelona. Barcelona might want Marcus Rashford. I think it's a great move all round. But if Barcelona start playing silly buggers and try to get him on a cheap deal, then Man United can basically just say, no, we're not going to sell him. Suddenly, Rashford's in a position where, shit, I'm not going to Barcelona. It's World Cup year. I want to play for England. Better get a loan deal. So I think it's clever by Man United. I read it at first and I was like, oh, God, that's meant to be £30 million coming into the club. But the reality is, we're not going to make that much money out of Rashford, really. We're not. Like, he's on a huge wage. Barcelona are going to try and, grab us by the balls and twist it. He's got a contract till 2028. It's not like he can go on loan for a year and run his contract down like Sancho. He's got a contract for 3 years at Manchester United. So I sort of like Man United's tactic. You might want to go to Barcelona. We want you to go to Barcelona, and Barcelona might want you. But we're not going to have the piss taken out of us. You're not going for like nothing. They can make a fair price and we'll do a deal. If they don't, we'll say no, and you'll be there at the end of August, not playing with us, having to find a loan deal again, desperately trying to find a team that will take you so you can go and play for the World Cup for England. So I think it's about Man United just getting a bit of control back into the situation. And I quite like that. So I'm not opposed to this loan deal, because I'd rather he went on loan for a year than we sell him for next to nothing to Barcelona. So I think it's a good idea. How come Anthony's not on the colder meter? Hopefully he's off as well. Love the content as Mark. Yeah, apologies about Anthony. He should be there. But you know what? I wanted to make it a little bit more interesting, and we only have 7 spots. So I didn't put Anthony on there for a reason, because I think he's quite a straightforward one that I actually respect. Anthony, put him where you like, 9, 8. But he will go, and he will have interest, and it will be a straightforward deal. So, yeah, Anthony should be there, yeah. I saw the Aston Villa thing on Transfer News Daily on Twitter, says Ray Martins. JB says, pure talent like Lamine Yamal or Champions League winner Dembele to win Ballon O'Donnell. I like Yamal, pure talent, swap Rashford is the wish, says JB. Thank you very much. Is anything going on with Diego Leon? Sell, we need to buy. Mbumo and Yarez, a new keeper, will get us into the top 8, says Andres. Well, Diego Leon will be on the pre-season. I don't think we need a strike. We signed a striker, Mark. They'll say Cunha and Mbumo can play there. We'd keep Rasmus as well then, angling for more, who we'll be talking about in a moment. Our Northern Ireland keeper, Piers Charles, is a great young keeper. Mark, he's 2-footed, great shot stopper, can play well from the back from Sheffield Wednesday, says Rico. I'm worried about the goalkeeper situation because we know that Bienda will already leave. Can we really offload Onana as well as get 2 new goalkeepers, says Chuff Bridge. And LA Red Devil Loyal says, cheers from LA. My son Nick and I here always supporting your channel. Can you say congratulations to him and his graduation to high school? Thank you, LA Devil Red. Appreciate that. I can say congratulations to him as well. But also, I want to say, not congratulations, I want to say happy birthday to Jamie. He's 21 today. Your fiance got in contact with us and basically said, could we do a birthday shout out? So hopefully you're watching. And happy birthday to you, Jamie, and thanks for supporting the channel. And, make sure you give your fiance a good Saturday night for this. Not like that, although they might be up for it. Who knows? But what I'm saying is, maybe give her a cuddle or take her out for a film or something like that. But happy birthday, Jamie. Give us the evening news, Mark. Thank you, says Chris. Thank you very much for that. Win for the fiance, says Tio. Yes. Yeah, you've got a good one there. Okay. Right, moving down the list, Jadon Sancho. So I'm enjoying this actually. We haven't really focused on the outs much. If you're interested in the ins, we spoke about Yarez at the start. So Jadon Sancho, I want to move through this quickly and talk about the goalkeeper. But this is our colder meter on the most likely players to go. Obviously, Anthony's going to go. We've just left him out. Sancho, 8 out of 10 chance he goes, 80%. Yeah, you know, he will leave. But again, I don't think he's going to go for money. I think he's going to go for money. That doesn't make sense. I don't think we're going to get a transfer fee, basically. I think that's gone. I don't know whether Jadon Sancho did it to piss Man United off. I don't know whether he begrudged us getting £25 million for him. I don't know whether he was driven by bitterness to stop that from happening because he could have gone to Chelsea, and apparently the offer Chelsea made was a fair one. But maybe he is driven by that bitterness towards this football club. I don't know. But I certainly don't see a scenario where he goes for money now. I think with 1 year left on his contract, he'll run it down. I think he'll run it down now. I think he will go on loan somewhere, and we will have to partly pay his wages again, I suppose. I don't see a scenario where he leaves for a transfer fee, Sancho, but there shouldn't be a way back for him. I don't think many people would want there to be a way back for him. If Ten Hag loves United, 90 million for Garnacho and Anthony, says Irish Whiskey. Thank you very much for that. So moving on to Onana, 6 out of 10 chance of him going. I've got to be honest, I nearly put him as a 5 with Rasmus, 50-50. Onana is absolutely a player that Amrim wants to go. We mentioned this in the international break. He likes him, but he doesn't trust him. Same with the defence. There is a lack of trust, and we see it every single game now. They have no confidence in him. He is well liked, but he's not the guy that Amrim wants, and everybody knows it. So Onana staying around as our first choice goalkeeper next season seems incomprehensible. And it's certainly not what Amrim wants and the club wants. They want to move him on. But sometimes you're in a situation where you've paid a massive amount of money for a player and you can't find a way out. There is talk of a loan deal for Onana, and it might not be the worst idea, but effectively the best deal for Onana is the Saudi League. That is the best move. And there is interest, but it's gone very, very, very quiet. It's like getting blood from a stone about Onana. As I said multiple times, Amrim wants to make the change. Amrim wants his own goalkeeper, and that's well known. And certainly Jason Wilcox understands that as a footballing person. He can see with his own eyes why we need to change the goalkeeper. But it's such a problem because he's on a big wage, and if he digs his feet in, it's hard to move him on. So I don't know with Onana. I feel like this one could be Onana on tour. But it's a problem to go into next season with him. But we need to find a buyer. We need to find a buyer because ideally you'd bring the goalkeeper in. Ideally you'd buy someone like Costa, make a big song and dance about it, and Onana would see that and go, I'm fucked. But at the moment, United don't have the money to buy the goalkeeper to prove to Onana that he won't be number one. So Onana might be of the mindset, like some footballers are, I'll prove them wrong. Harry Maguire's done it, to be fair. There was plenty of summers where Harry Maguire should have been sold. Nearly did get sold to West Ham. But ultimately, he fought his way back. So it can happen. But I'd say at the moment, 60% of chance of him going 6 out of 10. Chris Johnson Adventures, thank you. Welcome to the Members Club. So let's talk Rasmus next. I haven't put Xerxes in there. I'll explain why as we get down to the bottom. Because there could be more than 7 players that go. I think with Rasmus, it's 50-50. I'd re-sign David De Gea as well, Chris. I think with Rasmus, it's 50-50. There is interest from Italian clubs, Napoli, Inter Milan, and one other. The reason that interest is there because they remember him at Atalanta, and there's a feeling that he would work well in the Italian league, which is different to the Premier League. It's less intense. It's a little bit slower. So there is interest there. But I don't think Amrim's made his mind up yet based on who he's going to bring in as a striker. And also, I don't think the player actually wants to go himself. So for him to go, I think Amrim needs to tell him he wants him to go, and there needs to be a club that Rasmus then decides he wants to go to. But if he says he doesn't want to go, then as we've seen over the years at Man United, the player has the power. You know, Casemiro doesn't want to go, and here he is a year later. Harry Maguire didn't want to go, and here he still is. So sometimes the player has the power. And if he doesn't want to go, then it's not 100% that he will. So I'm sort of 50-50 when it comes to him. On Mainoo, look, I don't think Mainoo goes. We've been hearing about this for the last 6 months, ever since the January transfer window. 4 out of 10 chance, 40% chance he goes. I don't think Mainoo will go. I feel that from his side, there's always been this confusion about stories about him leaving. Always. Through multiple people that know him, his agents, representatives, they've never leaked anything about the 200 grand a week, the 150 grand a week. He's up for sale. United, he's never been told any of these things. So wherever that's been coming from, it hasn't been coming from him. And that's why I don't think he's going to go. I was told a long time ago that the £200,000 a week demand was ridiculous. Even the 150 grand a week is meant to be ridiculous. So I don't think he will go. I think there's a contract that Man United can do there. If he wanted to go and somebody offered a good deal, Man United would probably do it. But I don't think he does want to go, and I don't think United want to do a deal. So I don't think Mainoo will go, so I'd put him as a 4. Casemiro, I've put as a 2 because United would love to get rid of Casemiro for 2 reasons. 1, his wage is huge, and 2, his age is the wrong side of 32. So they know he's going to go for nothing in a year's time, so they'd rather move him now and build a future. But Casemiro ain't stupid. He signed a very good contract with Manchester United. He got very good wages out of Manchester United. And that contract has 12 months to run. And in 12 months' time, he can go MLS, probably MLS or Saudi, and earn good money again. So I don't see Casemiro going. But what I will repeat is that if United want to bring a midfielder in, they've got to move somebody on from that midfield to create the space and the wage for Manchester United. So I think it'll be very interesting to see what happens with that. I did nearly drop Xerxes in because I think Xerxes could be a 1 or a 2 as well. And obviously I've left Anthony out because he's probably the most uninteresting one of the lot because we all know he's going to go. So that's where we are with the cold meter at the moment. And I think it's a fair spread about where we are, really. It's a significant amount of players to go. And when you add Anthony in there, I would expect to see 6 or 7 go. Certainly. Excuse me, my throat's getting a bit tickly tonight. So give me your thoughts on that. Vibestream says, what about Mason Mount? Malacia, I can't be arsed. Malik, I mean, there's 7 spots there, and to be honest, they do get taken up by conversation starters. Malacia, I wouldn't waste my oxygen talking about him. He's just got to go in some way, shape, or form. Theo, will you do? I mean, this is what we're dealing with. Theo says, will you do the hotometer? Will you have the manners to watch the channel when we put content out? Because we did the hotometer at 2 o'clock. It disappoints me that you're not aware of that. I'm joking. It was on the 2 o'clock show. So, yeah, Malacia will go. Anthony will go as well. I mean, I didn't put Anthony in, as I said, because, look, Anthony's going to go. He's got options. He wants to go. Amrin wants him to go. I don't think we necessarily make that much money. I'd love to see Luke Shaw go. But he's not going to. I think he's got another I can't remember what Luke Shaw's contract is. I mean, I don't want to depress people on a Saturday night, but he's either got 2 or 3 years left on his contract. Let me have a quick look. Here we go. Luke Shaw, Manchester United. He's going to be he's going to be 30 in July, and he's got a contract for 2 more years. 2 more years of Luke Shaw, and he's 30 in July. Oh, you know what? We're such an intelligent club, aren't we? We're so 200 grand a week for another 2 years, and he's barely played for the last 2 years. Yeah. Who gave him that contract? It'd be Arnold, won't it? Or Murta or some other dick. Absolutely incredible, really, when you think about it. Really is. Is Sancho the worst Man United signing in history? Very far from it, mate, really. He's certainly not one of the best, but I wouldn't say he's one of the worst. Murta magic, says Yanni. Remember those twats who were out there saying Murta magic? I mean, it makes me laugh. It really does. It's like the people saying Ineos are doing a good job. If Yarez signed for Arsenal, that would change overnight. If Ten Hag loves United, I've done that one. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. So, yeah, look, the only thing I would say about this list of players is, and Anthony's not relevant, because I think with Anthony, what's left on his amortisation basically means that if we get 30, 35 million pounds, I think we basically break even for FFP purposes. So it doesn't really add anything. There's not actually that much money there, is what I was thinking. You know, like people say we've got to sell to buy. Casemiro won't go. And even if you did move him on, it's the wage more than anything that helps us with that. And that's about £1 million a month, isn't it? Mainoo would be pure profit of 40 million. So that would be a decent deal to do financially wise. Rasmus, again, you barely break even because it's only 2 years into a £65 million signing. Onana, you barely break even because it's only 2 years into a £50 million signing. Sancho, there's barely anything there, if you can get anything. Rashford, again, there's not a lot there. Maybe 20, maybe 30 million. So you can see why Garnacho's top of the list. Because there's just not a lot there. I've seen people saying we're going to raise £150 million. I don't think those people understand FFP. There's not actually a lot of money there. Sancho raises nothing. Onana won't raise anything. Rasmus won't raise anything. Anthony won't raise anything because of FFP and amortisation. So I'm really struggling tonight. I might have to stop the show. Tickly throat time. Told you I might need to apologise. Yeah, so there's not a hell of a lot there. I mean, look, I think from Garnacho, you might raise 45. Rashford, you might get another 20, 65. Little bits here and there might take us up to 80, 90. But there's not a lot of pure profit coming into the club is what I'm trying to say. But we do need a goalkeeper. Is Collier pure profit, says Chuffbridge? Well, he would be. I just don't know who would pay any money for him because obviously he hasn't broken through really that well. A lot of under-18s need to go on loan as well. Kone and Mantato, says Suraj. Who had a better career, Jones, Shaw or Smalling? I think Shaw's had the better career, GGMU. I mean, he's played in a lot of finals. Tyler says, do you think we will be better in the league next year because we don't need to focus on Europe? I mean, Tyler, with all due respect, I don't think not being in Europe is the reason that we will be better in the Premier League next season because, let's be honest, we were absolutely off our heads bad in the Premier League this season. Al says, can you please explain FFP? Manchester United is dividend into 3 companies and the FFP things are really complicated than just a basic understanding. Yeah, I'm not talking about FFP, mate. It's the summer transfer window. If that's what gets you excited, there's people out there. Swedish Rumble, very good at it. I can't be arsed. I think during the season, it's quite interesting. I can't be arsed. I really can't, because even people who profess to know about it really don't know what's in the bank and what's not in the bank. We can buy players is the bottom line. We can buy players. Mark, United's biggest mistakes was not selling Rashford in 22-23 when PSG were offering £100 million, says Ilya. United have made a lot of mistakes, of course. This is what we call rebuilding. Sorry, we need to get back to the top, says Kumbanjan. And we don't always, we don't sell players easily because we always devalue them when they're still in the team. Rashford, Garnacho and Sancho's value is on the rocks. No better offer will come for them. I think this is a very good point from Terence, actually. I want to read some of the other stuff from Rob Dawson, actually, because it fits in with quite well with what Tyrant said here. So, effectively, Rob Dawson from the ESPN has put an article out in the last hour or so And what he's basically saying is this. Manchester United have got 6 weeks before the US tour to resolve the futures of Sancho, Rashford, Antony and Garnacho. If deals aren't settled by then, Amorim faces a tough decision. Bringing them along risks distraction, while leaving them at Carrington could weaken the club's bargaining power with interested clubs. Welcome to Manchester United. This is a problem. It also goes on to say that Ruben Amorim is keen for a fresh start this summer after 6 months of firefighting since his appointment in November. That means having new signings ready and available ahead of the pre-season tour of the United States next month. Now, that's great. That's great news. That's ideal news, brilliant news. But the important part for me really is that it's only 6 weeks till we go on tour in the US. And, if you haven't moved Garnacho on, if you haven't moved Rashford on, if you haven't moved Sancho on, if you haven't moved Antony on, surely you then have to take them on tour. And if you take them on tour, it's a distraction, isn't it? It is. Some of those players are going to attract a lot of attention. It undermines the manager. It undermines the squad, the morale, the camaraderie. So it is a problem. And I agree with Terence that we're not very good at selling players. And this predates Amorim and this predates Ineos. We're just not very good at handling these situations. We're very good at handing out ridiculous money and ridiculous contracts and ridiculous agent fees. But we're terrible at instilling a level of professionalism within the football club. I mean, you look at the Garnacho thing. He does the interview after the final, and then we get the leak that Amorim had a go at him and told him to leave. Look, the guy's leaving. We don't need to know he's leaving publicly and there's been a big falling out, because every other club then goes, that's 10 million off the price, and we need that 10 million. The same with Rashford. You look back at it in January, all the comments about him being lazy in training and Rashford's interview, it's just unprofessional from both sides, and it leads to Rashford being devalued. So I think that this is something that we do need to do better in the future, because it can end up being 10, 20 million pounds down the drain. But more importantly, we do need to try and get some of these deals done quickly. Now, as I said, I think in the case of Antony and Garnacho, they will want to get it done sooner rather than later, because they want to turn a page and start somewhere else. I don't think it's in the interests of Garnacho or Antony to be going on the tour. I don't think they'll want to go on the tour. I think they'll want to be at their new clubs, rebuilding, ready to go for the start of the new season. Sancho and Rashford, I think, might be a bit different. I mean, Jadon Sancho did it with Ten Hag, didn't he? He'll go on a pre-season tour, even though he's got no intention of staying. He'll do it. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see him on the US tour. Rashford as well. I think Barcelona might play it out. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Rashford and Sancho going on the tour, in which case that's really problematic for Amorim, because, if he starts picking Rashford, he looks weak. He looks really weak. What's he going to do? Oh, he's trying now. I'm going to give him another chance. So I think those things will be quite interesting how they play out, to be fair. But you're not going to get rid of all these players as quick as we would like. I miss my friend. He loved Manchester United and I love Liverpool. He took a part of me with him. It's been 30 years. This is Michael Branley. Lovely message there. Hope you're doing well, Michael. Toss a meter, please, for disrespecting United, says Alan. And Francisco, welcome to Members Club. Thank you very much. Do you think United should have went for Kepa, 5 million clause? What, Crapper? I think Kepa's a shit goalkeeper. I know people say he's done well at Bournemouth. I've always thought he was shit. I genuinely think Kepa's shit. I wouldn't want him anywhere near Man United. I think when Kepa went down in my estimation was when he refused to come off for Sarri in that final. Nah, let him go to Arsenal. I don't rate him. Adel says, I watched the video by former United Stand employee saying you were racist in your appraisal in favour of Shaw. I don't see this. Can you provide context? Adel, I've got absolutely no idea what you're talking about. suffice to say, I'm not getting drawn into any silly comments that somebody may or may have not said about me. I don't get interested in any of that, other than to say it's a ridiculous accusation that I've never heard of. United had a choice to extend Shaw for a further year, but after an excellent display, they offered him a 5-year contract in April 23 until 2027, says Slow Sports News. So 2023 would be 2 years ago when Luke Shaw was 28. We gave an injury-prone player at 28 a 5-year contract on 200 grand a week. Welcome to Manchester United. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. But can't say it's massively shocking. Sean says, ask Ariane to do Bella's milk tonight, please. I think that's a little bit... I think we're being used as a notice board here. I don't know whether Ariane's watching, but I think it's your night to do Bella's milk. Would you consider signing Joe Whitworth? He's great. Stanton, never heard of him. Rashford to Aston Villa or Barcelona for free, says Ashley. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Smith says, Sal Hoyland, Garnacho, Anthony, Marcus, Rashford, Mason Mount, Jadon Sancho. Okay, bit of a long list there. McCoy says, between Onana and Kepa, who would you pick from last season? Well, I'd have to pick Kepa, wouldn't I? But I mean, you know what? We don't have to make those choices. We go for better than that. You don't have to read this, but the guy's talking about the documentary made of you, and part of it mentions some salt previous employees had. Documentary? I'm not in a bloody documentary. I don't know what's going on here, Inquisition. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. Look, actually, that reminds me of something. I will say this. It's we're well into the show. I read the comments, and this morning I was doing the morning show. Obviously, I'm suffering from jet lag. Obviously, I'm suffering from a bit of an illness, and I'll put my hands up and say sometimes I do react to comments. People say you're very easy to rage bait, and sometimes I just do it. I've done it for 10 years. I'm never going to change. I'm not even saying I want to change. But I read some of the comments this morning, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to watch it back. And to be fair, I don't think I was in the wrong. I just think somebody was saying it wasn't news this morning on a news show, and I reacted by saying, well, it is news, and I got a little bit defensive. And look, I'm not apologising to that person. I think they're a troll. But I will apologise to the people who think I was a bit rude, because I don't want to come across as that to people who I actually care about in this community. But suffice to say, it is live content. I have always been like it. What you see is what you get. And I'm not somebody who is inherently an arsehole. I'm very honest, and what you see is what you get. And sometimes I'm in a great mood. Sometimes I feel a bit ill. Sometimes I'm a bit tired. And sometimes I get a little bit irritated, because I think some people do just come in here and take the piss out of what we've built. Whatever somebody's talking about there, we have a lot to deal with. I have a lot to deal with. The people I work with have a lot to deal with. You have a lot to deal with. We've built something from zero to what it is today, and you get more attention and more hate because of that. I mean, look, I could spend a lot of my time getting irritated by the fact that 10 years ago, no one was doing what we're doing. 10 years later, you can't move for people who used to work with us, who do literally copy everything from morning show to evening show to watch along to live reactions. Literally just the playbook of what we've done. They copy it, and there's loads of them done it. There's people who are nothing to do with us who copy it. I could get really annoyed by that. We could get really annoyed by that. We could get really stressed by that. We could say it's not fair that people do that. That's in relation to the comment about this documentary or whatever it is. None of that bothers me. That doesn't irritate me at all. I see it as a compliment. I think what we've built's amazing. And I think if people want to copy it, whether it's unoriginal or not, whether they hate us or not, they're copying it. You're doing what you weren't doing until you saw us do it. I think this is great. Imitation is the best form of flattery, isn't it? So, or whatever the line is. I'm not bothered about that. So if people are saying stuff about, if ex-employees are accusing of us of ridiculous things, I'm not bothered, because I don't think about them. I'm not bothered about them. Good luck to them. It's not easy to do this. I suppose it's easier if you watch somebody else do it and copy it, but it still takes up your time, so whatever. That's not what gets me irritated. Sometimes what gets me irritated is I think that we've built something really special. It's a fantastic community. It's real. We do the charity stuff. you know, people want shout-outs because they're getting married or somebody's died or something like this, that and the other. It's really real. And sometimes when things are real, it's a bit rough around the edges. And sometimes, you know, you do offend people and you don't necessarily mean to do it. I'm not apologising to the person who was winding me up this morning, but I will apologise to the people who it upsets because you were being a bit rude. That's not my intention, but I'm not going to stop doing it because I think sometimes, you know, I'm not in the mood to be fake. I think there's a lot of people who click the live button and go, hello, everybody. Oh, yeah, we're just so great. We're just so great. We're so different to everyone else. And no. And they're not like that in real life. I know a lot of these people. They're not like that in real life at all. They're fucking fake. They're fake. Like, their personalities literally change when they go in front of the camera. Like, I'm not going to do that. So you either like it or you don't like it. But one thing people can never accuse me of, personality-wise, being, sometimes I've had a drink, sometimes I've got a headache, sometimes I'm buzzing, sometimes I'm feeling low. That's just the way it's going to be. And I can't apologise for that. And if you don't like that, don't watch it. Go and watch the Fake Brigade, who don't do their content like this because they're fake. I'm not saying everybody's fake, by the way, but what I'm saying is I could be fake. I could take a deep breath before every show and go, I could write notes and say, don't do this, don't do that, just do this, just do that, smile at the camera. A lot of lifestyle people is what I'm talking about when we're talking about fake content creators. You know, the Instagram life. I'm not necessarily talking about other football content creators. I'm talking about the lifestyle people. That is fake. So obviously fake. Hollyoaks is fake. You know, it's you know, I never wanted that with this community, and I think that's why it works. So yeah, I've got that off my chest a little bit, but it sort of went off somewhere that it didn't mean to go. Because I don't know what that other stuff's all about. Genuinely, I really don't. If we can't sell Onana, can't we not keep him as a backup keeper? I'm worried about the creativity in the front three. Louis, I don't think Onana as a backup keeper is a good idea. I think he's better than that, and I don't think it's a good idea. I think he will either be the first choice goalkeeper or he will go. Ahmad says, don't ever change, mate. We all value your opinions. Thank you, pal. Appreciate that. I've had a few beers and smell like eggs for whatever reason. Any ideas, Mark? Says Jared. Can't help you with that one unless you fell into a tray of eggs. Love you being you, Mark. To the Inquisition. Thank you, pal. When was the last time we as a club focused on our midfield? Seems like our midfield has been a weak point for a decade. I can only really think of Pogba. It's interesting, Jace, you talk about the midfield because we were talking about that on the afternoon show. I was going to do a video this afternoon about the midfield, actually. And I ended up changing it because I wanted to bring the hotometer back because a lot of people had been talking about the hotometer. Should we bring the hotometer onto the show, actually, just so those people who this afternoon didn't see? See, I'm giving you gifts. Gift bridge. I'm giving you a gift here. I'm going to bring on the hotometer. Where's the hotometer? There it is. So there's the colder meter. There's the hotometer. These are for incomings. That's our top 7 at the moment, marked out of 10 on most likely. So, but I agree with Jace. I think the midfield is an area that I think's very, very important. And I think we've neglected the midfield since Roy Keane left, which was 2006. I want to say maybe 5. So 20 years we've neglected the midfield. Michael Carrick came in around that time. I don't think the volume of midfielders we've brought in. I mean, to be fair, Van Gaal tried to address it. He brought Schweinsteiger, Schneidlin in. We have tried to address it, but it's an area that we've neglected for a long time. And I think there is John says Kone's ready, mark my words. I hope he is. But I think there's a direct correlation between Man United's midfield and the last, 12 years. You know, you look at what Klopp did to that midfield, and then they've been back in the top 3 the last 2 years. He went and got McAllister, Gravenberch, and Szoboszlai, and 2 years have been fantastic for them. Nick says, don't worry, you were so valid. You were just defending the community. All good, Mark, but don't let it happen again or we'll send you to an anger management. We love you. Therapy Bridge, says Nick. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Kone looks and sounds like a baller, says Ferbs. Look, if we don't buy a midfielder and we keep Mainoo, we keep Casemiro, we keep Collier, we keep Bruno, and we keep Agate, and Kone comes in, fine. But make sure Kone plays. Flaremonger says, I think we need a ball-playing midfielder like a Belieber or a Wharton. What other midfielders would you potentially want? I think a lot of the midfielders we would like, and I agree with both those names. I mean, I know for a fact that Man United would love Wharton. I said this a few weeks ago. They would love Wharton, but he's just not gettable. I've never heard us be linked to Belieber. I think that's a fan theory. I think Hulmlan at Sporting would be another one. I mean, Amrim loves him, but he's not gettable. I don't think we'll go for Ederson. I really don't. I don't feel like Ederson. I don't feel like Ederson actually complements Bruno as well as people think. I feel like Ederson's more of a box-to-box player who can be a 6, but I don't think he's a specialist 6 in my opinion. So I don't know whether that would work as well. Suraj says, who is more needed, a midfielder or a striker with 10s done? Striker, 100%. Striker, 100%. Like, a striker is needed regardless of whether Rasmus stays or not. Even if he does stay, we still need a striker. Thomas Frank has told Spurs he wants to rival Manchester United for 60 million, Brian Mbeumo. He won't go, mate. He won't go. He wants to come to Manchester United. He won't go to Spurs. I mean, look, obviously working with Thomas Frank might be something, but you know what? If I was Mbeumo, I would not go to Spurs. Like, Thomas Frank or not, he'd be gone in a year or two. I wouldn't bother with that. I really wouldn't. Finally, the end of player power and their agents hope this will be the new culture at United, as Rob asks. I think that's an interesting point. Is it the end of player power and culture when you look at the Calder meter and who's going out the club? Look, Rashford's been a symbol of player power. Garnacho certainly would be a symbol of that as well. Player FC, sorry. There's a lot of fans who love Garnacho. There's a lot of fans who love Rashford in the old Player FC mode. Sancho, I think, has his Player FC crowd as well. So look, the top 3 in that would definitely be what you would call players that have a following just because of themselves. I don't think Amorim is deliberately looking to remove that. Bruno has a very big Player FC support. And I'm not saying if you like Rashford, Bruno, Garnacho or Sancho, you're a Player FC fan. I mean, I like Bruno. Rashford used to be one of my favourite players. I was very excited about signing Sancho. I like Garnacho. But I don't support them as players over the club. I think there are Player FCs when you support the player over the club, and there are people who certainly do that. You know, Amorim needs to instill a team ethic, and whether some of those players I agree with being sold or not, he does have to do that. And I think in the case of Garnacho, he was left out of the Manchester derby in December, surprisingly, with Marcus Rashford. Marcus Rashford was gone in January. Garnacho stayed. I think Amorim wanted to give Garnacho a kick up the arse, and he responded to it. And then he picked him nearly every game. Then at the end of the season, he left him out for Mason Mount, and I think Garnacho thought, fuck off. And I think they fell out. I think what people need to realise with Garnacho and Amorim is that it was mutual at the end, and it was mutual at the start. You know, Garnacho got left out of the Manchester derby. Funnily enough, I think Mason Mount started that game as well. Mason Mount got injured. Garnacho came back. Garnacho played pretty much for 4 months. Mason Mount got fit. Mason Mount got picked for the final. Garnacho got put on the bench. From Garnacho's side, I think he felt let down by Amorim, having played really hard for him for the last 4 months. And I think he felt that was the end. And I think Amorim didn't like the response and felt it was the end as well. So I think that amicably came to an end. I don't think anybody can argue with that, really. J. Low Hustle, thank you. Welcome to the Members Club. Hope you're doing well. Matty is in the chat. Hope you're doing well. Matty says, looking forward to Premier League fixtures. Who do you want first? So it's a week on Wednesday. Premier League fixtures come out. I'll tell you what I would like. I definitely want Sunderland or Burnley in the first 3 games. I don't want Arsenal, City or Liverpool in the first 6. Certainly not in the first 3. I would like to see a Sunderland, Everton and someone like Villa. Because we've got a good record against Villa. But you know what? I did leave Anthony deliberately out of the colder meter Willix because I just felt it was just such an obvious one. Leeds is not a good game to get, Lee, because they're a big... You don't want Leeds at Ellen Road. Fucking hell, God no. But I tell you what, I am excited to see the Premier League fixtures for the first time in a long time because we're not in Europe. So the Premier League, every game is important and the start is important. And we need to treat every Premier League game with such scrutiny and focus. It doesn't matter if it's Sunderland or Liverpool. You've got to be focused on every single game. And I think that there's not going to be an easy start unless you get Burnley, Sunderland and Leeds in your first three, which you won't. You're not going to get an easy start because like how many teams were good last year? Brentford, Fulham, Bournemouth, Brighton, Forest, they're all Crystal Palace. That's not to mention the traditionals, the Newcastles, the Villas, the Spurs, the Chelseas. Then you got the Man United, the Arsenals, the Man Cities. The Man Cities, the Arsenals and the Liverpools. So, it will be a difficult start to the season, whatever, because we were so shit last year. Do you still see Ugarte thriving at United? I do. I think he's going to have a big second season, GGMU. I think he's had a challenging first season, the same as Mazraoui, Yoro, Xerxes, De Ligt. I think it must have been very difficult to come into the Premier League. Then very difficult, the manager that signs you gets sacked. Then very difficult to lose all those games under another manager. So I think it's been a challenging first year for a lot of our new signings. But I think with Ugarte, he's a player that's so based on energy that I think having a proper pre-season, which he didn't get last year, will be really useful. There's definitely the signs of a good player there. And hopefully he can deliver. Looking forward to Saturday games as well, says Matty. Yeah, that will be good. The problem is that we might get a lot of Saturday 3 o'clock games. I don't know how many games we're going to be on the telly. I was told at the end of last season that United are a bit concerned about TV rights next year because we might not be on the telly as much as we would normally be over the last 25 years. Traditionally, Man United Spurs, Man United Chelsea, Man United Villa, these would all be games that would be put on the TV because it's Man United, but they're not so sure now. Having said that, I was also told by somebody at a certain big broadcaster when I was at Baller League that even if United are shit, the figures don't lie. Like Man United against Villa will have more people watching it on Sky than Newcastle against Chelsea in a top 5 race. So hopefully we'll still be on the telly a lot. Ter Stegen is available, says Gerard. Well, they're going for Garcia, aren't they? Which is interesting. They're going for Garcia. So, I mean, Ter Stegen's all right, isn't he? He's 33. The interesting thing about Ter Stegen is he's 33. David De Gea's 34. I think it'll be too old for United to go near that, if I'm being honest. Ewan says, you're doing a great job and the community you've built has been truly exceptional. Which midfielder are you expecting us to sign? It's a tough one, Ewan. It's a bit like the goalkeeper. I just don't know who we're going to sign. In fact, I've probably got more ideas of the goalkeeper, actually. I'd say Costa, Milinkovic-Savic, Emi Martinez are all possibles. Midfield, it's really difficult. Look, some people aren't happy about it, but when the midfield roster is 5 people, Bruno, Collier, Casemiro, Ugarte and Mainoo, if you want to bring a midfielder in, a good midfielder, you've got to move one of them on. Bruno, we said no. Ugarte's only been here a year. Collier doesn't really bring any money in. Casemiro, we can't get rid of. And Mainoo, I don't think we will. So I'm not actually convinced we'll bring a midfielder in because we definitely need to move one on. And what people don't understand is we don't need to sell to buy. We need to move somebody on because we can't carry 6 midfielders in a season where we're not playing European football. So one of them's got to get moved on. And I just, look at that. 2 out of 10, 4 out of 10 for Mainoo and Casemiro. We may not buy a midfielder, even though Amrin wants one. With the injury issues we always have with the defenders and the amount of midfielders we have, if you were the manager, would you switch to a back 4? Tell me you're a troll, Slazy, because I'm not actually going to spend any time on it. This manager has never played anything other than a 3-4-3. He's not about to play a back 4. Do you think we'd have a homegrown... Sorry, Mark. Do you think we'd have a home game on day 1? No idea, Rahul. I'd be guessing. Louis says, Mark, Bruno won't work in the pivot. Only time we played well last season was when it was Agate and Casemiro. And the only team who played the same formation who won the league played Kante and Matic, says Louis. We may not get time to do this over the next few weeks because of the sheer volume of news that comes in around transfers. But I sort of wanted to do it in depth at 2 o'clock, and it's difficult. But I genuinely, honestly, will leave you with this. I do have concerns about his midfield plan with Bruno, but I've had it for 6 months. I didn't know Al-Hilal were going to offer £100 million, and I was still saying it. I do not get Bruno in a pivot, in a midfield pivot. I don't get it. I've watched the Premier League all my life. I don't think you can put Kevin De Bruyne next to one other midfielder and play him deep. Well, actually, at Man City, you probably can because you're going to have 80% possession, but the way we play, I think you need someone with a little bit of discipline and midfield tenacity and defensive skills. And I don't know whether Bruno's got that. But Amrin might have a plan that we haven't seen yet. You know? Thank you, everybody, for tuning in tonight. Really enjoyed it. Thankfully, my throat has held out. Mark, you came to New York, but I didn't see you. Wanted to buy you a beer, mate. We're United, says Mugisha. Yeah, just in relation to that, New York's quite a big place. It's not like we're walking around a room with 5 people in it and I didn't see him. But I'd like to have had a beer with you. But chances, you know, it's a big place, New York. Carabao Cup second round worries me. We need to win it. Yeah, we have to play an extra game, don't we, Matty? I think we play another game more than we normally do because of because we're shit, basically. We're not in the top half of the table. Sorry. Just got a super chat here from Tom. He says, pardon my ignorance, but this year does the window shut and reopen again? It's something Beth said yesterday. It closes for about 4 days. It closes on Tuesday and then reopens, I think, next Monday. It doesn't really mean anything, though, because you can still be doing talks. The transfer window to us doesn't mean anything if it closes, because you could still be, Romano says, advanced talks, even though the window's closed for 4 days. Bruno may become more disciplined with a better forward, says Ewan Gordon. Mark Kennedy says, why is Anthony not on the colder meter? Hopefully he's off as well. I deliberately left Anthony off because he's not really much of a topic to discuss, and I could only get 7 on, and the others I wanted to talk about. Yeah. Thanks everyone for tuning in tonight. Oh, just a little bit of a shout out. Tomorrow morning, I normally do a 10 o'clock show every morning. Tomorrow morning, it will be more likely to be around sort of 11:30, midday, because unless I do it early, which I don't think I will, I'll do it around 11:30, midday, because Seb's got a match tomorrow. So they're kicking off, I think, at around 10 o'clock. So sometimes this happens on a Sunday. Yeah, we will have a show for you tomorrow, but it'll be more around 11:30, midday, UK time. Thanks everyone for watching. Really appreciate it. We did hit 1 million on Twitter, yes. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care, everyone. Big up the community. Really enjoyed it tonight as always. Stay safe, take care, and I'll talk to you on the next one.